Welcome to English Simple Hub.
It's great to be here. We have a very clear mission today. We are doing a strategic deep dive into the IELTS speaking test.
Specifically, part 1.
Exactly. Part 1, and we're zeroing in on one topic, music.
And just to be super clear with everyone listening, this isn't just a chat about, our favorite songs. We're here to dissect what makes a Band 9 answer. We're looking at the specific vocabulary, the grammar, the structures that examiners are actually trained to reward.
Precisely. The source material we're analyzing today really gives us a blueprint for that top score.
Yeah.
But, and this is important, we have to start with a disclaimer.
Okay.
Especially for a topic like music, it's so subjective, it's personal.
Right. I can see the trap there. The sample answer says, I love K-pop, and you can't stand it, but you think you have to say it.
And that is the fastest way to drop your score. The examiner is not grading your taste in music.
They're grading your English.
They are grading your communication. If you're just reciting a script that isn't true, your voice goes flat. You lose all that natural intonation because you're just recalling words, not expressing an idea.
And the examiner can hear that a mile away. They just tick the box that says memorized answer.
And your score is capped. So the mission for you listening today is to take the structure we give you, let's call it the skeleton, and put your own truth, your own musical tastes on top of it.
The architecture versus the decoration. I like that.
That's the perfect way to think about it.
Okay, let's get into that architecture then. The first question is almost always about frequency. The examiner asks, when do you listen to music?
And this seems so simple, which is exactly why it's a trap. A typical candidate, maybe aiming for a band 6, gives a very functional answer. Something like, I listen to music every day.
Which is true. It's grammatically fine. So what's the problem?
The problem is that it's static. It's, frankly, a bit boring. It shows competence, but it doesn't show any flair.
It doesn't show mastery.
No. Now, the source material we're looking at suggests a much more dynamic phrase. It starts with, I listen to music at every possible opportunity.
Every possible opportunity.
Okay, that immediately has more energy. It sounds more enthusiastic.
It does. It signals a wider vocabulary right from the start. But the real Band 9 strategy is what comes next. The sample answer expands on that. It says something like, when I'm getting ready for work, when I'm driving to the office, when I'm working.
I see it. It's the ing form. Getting, driving, working. He's not just listing time.
Exactly. And that's our first major technical takeaway. The source really emphasizes the deliberate use of the present continuous tense.
Okay, so why does when I'm driving score higher than, say, when I drive in my car?
Because I drive is the simple present. It's a fact. It's a habit. It's a finished thought. But when I am driving, that paints a picture.
It's an action in progress.
It's an action in progress, and it creates a scene. Examiners are always listening for grammatical range. When you switch tenses like that, you're showing them you can control the language to create nuance. So, practically speaking, when you get that when do you question, you shouldn't just give a time. You should describe the activity you're doing at that time.
Yes. It flows much better. And, it fills your answer with quality grammar. Now, let's look at the vocab used to support this. The speaker mentions using an app called Spotify.
Is it better to name a specific brand, like Spotify or Apple Music?
In this case, yes. It adds what we call naturalism.
Okay.
Real people talk about the apps they actually use. If you say, I use a music streaming service, you sound a bit like a robot. If you say, I use the Spotify app, you sound like a normal person.
And the source mentioned the word app specifically.
Right. Short for application.
Yeah.
Using that short form shows you understand conversational English.
Yeah.
And it pairs really well with another word from the source, playlists.
I have different playlists. Yeah, that makes sense.
But the vocabulary I really want everyone to grab onto is the phrase that links all this together. Depending on my mood.
Depending on my mood. That's a great phrase.
It's common for native speakers, but you don't hear it as much from candidates. It's a high-level connector. It links your action listening to music to your internal state, your feelings.
So you're not just a passive listener, you're actively choosing music based on how you feel.
Exactly. The sample explains it. If I'm sad, I'll listen to one thing. If I'm happy, I'll listen to another. Using depending on my mood lets you build these more complex sentences.
So to recap segment 1, start with every possible opportunity. Use the present continuous to describe actions and connect it all with depending on my mood.
That is the formula. Now let's move on to the second common question type, which is about duration. How much time do you spend listening to music each day?
This one's tricky. I mean, who actually times themselves?
Nobody. And the source material knows that, so it gives us two ways to handle it. One for the person who listens all the time, and one for the more average listener.
Let's start with the heavy listener. The sample answer says something like 18 hours a day.
Which sounds crazy, right? But the magic is in the justification. The sample answer says, some days I guess it would be as much as 18 hours because I have background music on all the time.
Background music. That's the key.
That is the essential term. Background music is a specific collocation. It means the music isn't your main focus. It's just there while you do other things.
Like working, cooking, cleaning.
And notice the little phrase the source uses to group those activities. It says, if I'm in meetings or such like.
Such like. That sounds quite informal, quite British.
It is. It's a very natural, conversational way to say, etc., or in other similar things. It shows the examiner you're comfortable with the language.
Okay, but what if you're not that person? What if you genuinely just listen for an hour or two?
Then you use the second strategy, which is built around one of the most useful words in the entire IELTS test. Roughly.
Roughly. As in, I listen for roughly 2 hours a day.
Yes. Roughly means approximately. But, about is maybe a band 6 word. Yeah. Roughly sounds more considered, more like an estimate.
It also buys you a second to think. You can say, roughly, and then come up with a number.
That's a great tactical point. But here's the really big insight from the source material, and this goes way beyond this one topic.
Oh.
The expert in the source connects the word roughly to the academic writing test.
To writing task 1, how does that work?
Think about when you have to describe a chart or a graph. You see a bar that's at, say, 49%. You shouldn't just write, it was 49%.
Nah, you should write it was roughly 50%.
Exactly, roughly half, roughly a third. Learning to use roughly to estimate is a skill that gives you double the points. It makes your speaking sound natural and your writing sound more analytical.
That's a really good tip. 1 word, 2 parts of the test.
It's all about efficient learning.
Okay, we're about to shift gears into what I think is the hardest part for a lot of people. Talking about specific tastes and genres.
This is where people get stuck, for sure.
But before we get into that, we just want to take a moment and connect with you, our listeners. We know we have people tuning in from all over the world.
Yeah, it's always amazing to see the community we're building here.
So do us a favor, comment below which country you are watching from.
We would absolutely love to see where this deep dive is reaching today.
Definitely. Okay, back to it. Segment 3. The question is, what kinds of music do you listen to?
And the big trap here is what I call the shopping list answer.
I like pop, rock, and jazz.
Yes. Awful. It's a terrible strategy. It shows zero grammatical range. The source gives us a much better structure, one that creates a little story. It contrasts your past self with your present self.
What does that sound like?
The structure is, I used to be into something old, but nowadays I mainly listen to something new.
Okay, let's break down used to be into.
To be into something is a fantastic phrasal verb. It just means you really like it. But it sounds so much more natural and idiomatic than I like. For example, I used to be into Western artists.
And Western artists is a useful term. It covers a lot of ground.
A huge amount. US, UK, Europe. It saves you from having to list a bunch of names. But then the sample contrasts that with the present. But nowadays, I mainly listen to K-pop.
Which makes sense. It's a global thing now.
Of course. But look at the grammar you're demonstrating. I used to be, but now I listen. You're showing the examiner you can handle shifts in time. That's complex grammar.
The answer then gets more specific. It mentions EDM.
Tonic dance music. Yeah, using acronyms is fine if they're well known. But the real points come from the adjectives. The sample uses the word up-tempo.
Up-tempo. Most people would probably just say fast music.
And fast is a very basic word. Up-tempo is a word from the world of music. It describes the beat. It implies energy, a happy feeling. The source contrasts it with slow ballads.
Like a sad song.
Exactly. If you can show, the opposites, up-tempo tracks versus slow ballads, that's a huge demonstration of your vocabulary range. And then there's one more.
Catchy lyrics.
Catchy. Such a brilliant word. It means it's easy to remember. It gets stuck in your head. An earworm.
So up-tempo songs with catchy lyrics is like a perfect phrase.
It's a powerhouse collocation.
But I want to circle back to our disclaimer. What if I hate EDM? What if up-tempo music is the last thing I want to listen to?
This is what we call the adaptability strategy. And this is what separates the good candidates from the great ones. You absolutely use the vocabulary. You just flip the grammar into the negative.
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. Instead of saying, I'm really into up-tempo EDM, you say, to be honest, I can't stand up-tempo EDM.
I can't stand. That's a strong phrase.
It is. It means you really dislike it. I can't stand catchy pop songs. I much prefer slow ballads with meaningful lyrics.
I see. So you're still using all the good words, catchy, up-tempo ballads, but you're just using them to express your real opinion.
Exactly. The examiner isn't judging your taste. They're thinking, wow, this candidate just used up-tempo correctly in a negative sentence. That's impressive.
So you don't have to pretend. That's a relief.
Honesty is always easier. Just make sure you're using high-level vocabulary to express that honesty.
That brings us to our final segment. We've done frequency, duration, genre. Now, experience. The question, have you ever been to a concert before?
This is what I call a binary trap. It invites a yes or no answer,
Yes, I have. No, I haven't.
which, as we know, is the kiss of death in the speaking test. You have to expand. So the source material gives us two clear paths. Path A for yes and path B for no.
Let's do the yes path first.
The sample answer is great. It's something like, actually, I was lucky enough to get tickets to see BTS during their sold-out stadium tour.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Lucky enough to get tickets.
That immediately implies that tickets were hard to get. It adds a bit of drama,
Right. And then sold out.
meaning every single ticket was gone, a very specific industry term. And then my favorite bit, stadium tour,
Why is that better than just saying concert?
because it's about precision. A concert can be 5 people in a pub. A stadium tour paints a picture of a massive event, thousands of people. It's vivid.
And it ends with an emotional reaction. It was absolutely incredible.
That adverb-adjective combination. It adds emphasis. It sounds natural.
Okay, now for path B, the no path. This feels harder. How do you make I haven't done something sound good?
You do it by reframing it. You don't just say no. The sample suggests starting with, no, sadly not. Or, I haven't been fortunate enough.
Haven't been fortunate enough. I like that. It makes it sound like a missed opportunity, not just a fact.
It adds emotion. But the truly clever part is the reason it gives. There are a few artists I'd love to see, but they haven't performed in my country yet.
So it's not my fault. It's their fault for not coming here.
You're shifting the responsibility. It's a brilliant move. But look at the grammar in both the yes and no answers. I have been, I haven't been, they haven't performed.
It's a present perfect tense.
This is the second huge grammar point of our deep dive. The source material is very clear about this. Almost no candidates use the present perfect with confidence.
That's strange because have you ever is such a common question form.
We learn the question, but we default to the simple past for the answer. We say, yes, I went last year. The question, have you ever, is asking about your entire life experience up to now. The present perfect connects the past to the present.
So if the examiner asks, have you ever, you should mirror that grammar back.
It should be a reflex. Trigger, have you ever? Response, yes, I have, or no, I haven't. Then you expand. Answering with the present perfect immediately signals to the examiner that you understand the grammar on a deep level.
So to wrap up this last part, for yes, use words like sold out and stadium tour. For no, say sadly not and give an external reason. And for both, use the present perfect.
That's the formula. You've got it.
We've covered so much today, from every possible opportunity and roughly, to up-tempo and catchy and finishing with the present perfect.
It's a full toolkit for this topic. But, you know, a toolkit is no good if it just sits in the box.
Right. And before we finish, we want to do one last check-in with all of you. We threw a lot of specific phrases at you today.
We did. Background music. Depending on my mood, lucky enough, I can't stand.
Comment the phrase you learned today.
We're curious to know which one really resonated with you. Was it a word? A grammar tip? Let us know.
Okay, so if you had to boil this entire deep dive down to one final piece of advice, what would it be?
Active adaptation. We've given you the structures, we've given you the vocabulary, but that knowledge is passive. Speaking is active. You have to take these phrases and actually use them.
Don't just learn the script.
Never just learn the script. Internalize the structure. Practice saying, when I'm driving, or I've never been fortunate enough, using your own real-life examples. That's how you get a Band 9, not by copying someone else's answer, but by building your own.
That's it right there. Knowledge is only useful when you apply it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this useful and you want more of these strategies, we have one simple request.
Subscribe for more IELTS podcasts.
We'll see you in the next one.